Mira Voss was 12 when she learned what the Galactic Council called peace. The broadcast arrived without warning, hijacking every public screen in the Terran embassy district, markets, transit hubs, classroom walls. The council didn't just announce punishment. It performed it. Her father stood in the center of a pale, circular chamber that looked carved from bone. Alien judges floated behind a lattice of light, their faces blurred by shimmering censorship. The only thing crystal clear was the restrained collar at his throat and the way he kept his shoulders straight, even as the air itself seemed to press him down. A Cherokee voice filled the room where Mira watched, thin and confident. Ambassador Elias Voss, you are charged with inciting disobedience, encouraging illegal expansion, and spreading destabilizing human rhetoric. Her father's mouth tightened, then softened into something that felt like a private message meant for her alone. When he spoke, his voice carried the scratch of exhaustion and the stubborn warmth she'd grown up with. I asked for a seat at the table, he said, calm as rain. Not a leash, the chamber hummed. A halo of symbols rotated above him, translating his words into council standard. You will submit, the Cherokee voice replied, almost kindly. The council preserves order. You will not endanger it. Her father lifted his chin. Order isn't the same as justice. Myra's mother grabbed her shoulders, but Mira had already leaned closer to the screen, trying to memorize every line of his face, every flicker of defiance. She didn't know then that some memories are not kept by choice. They root themselves like shrapnel. The Cherokee judge's tone cooled. Final statement. Her father inhaled, and for the first time, fear slipped through his composure, not for himself, but outward, as if he could see the decades ahead. They fear what we might become, he said. So become it anyway. The collar flashed. The screen cut to static. That night, Terra learned a lesson the council meant to be permanent. Mira learned a different one. Humiliation can be inherited, but so can resolve. 27 years later, the capital of humanity did not sit on a planet. It hovered above Earth like a crown of steel and glass. Terra Prime Station, its ringed habitats glowing with city light, its shipyards bristling with half-built hulls, its command spire piercing the dark. Mira stood in the spire's top war room with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the slow drift of continents below. Earth looked gentle from here, blue, curved, quiet. The illusion never lasted long. A door hissed. Footsteps approached with urgency that didn't bother to hide itself. Hi, Strategos, said Admiral Kepler, breath tight, uniform immaculate. Priority transmission. Council seal. It came through neutral relays. Mira didn't turn at once. They finally stopped pretending? Kepler hesitated, then offered a thin tablet. We verified encryption. It's authentic. Mira accepted it, thumbprint unlocking the file. A holographic projection unfolded in the air, the council emblem, 12 interlocked sigils forming a cage. The message began without greeting. By authority of the Galactic Council, a voice intoned, the human polity designated Terran Empire is hereby issued an ultimatum of compliance. Mira watched Kepler's reflection in the glass wall. His jaw tightened. The voice continued, each demand delivered like a verdict. Dismantle all border fleets stationed beyond Sector Theta 4. Cease colonization and resource acquisition in contested systems. Submit all military and industrial output to Council oversight for a term of no less than 100 standard cycles. Failure to comply within 72 Terran hours will result in containment by force. The last line dropped like a guillotine. Extermination protocols are authorized. Silence swallowed the room. Even the usual background hum, the whisper of ventilation, the faint tick of tactical consoles, seemed to retreat. Kepler spoke first, voice low. They said it. Myra's eyes stayed on the floating text. She didn't blink. They meant it. He searched her face for something: panic, grief, negotiation. He found none of it. Mira felt her heartbeat, steady as a metronome, as if her body had rehearsed this moment for years. Senate will demand an emergency session, Kepler said. They'll demand a miracle, Mira replied. A junior officer at the edge of the room cleared her throat. "Ma'am, the Council has never issued extermination authorization to a unified species." Mira finally turned, and the officer stiffened at the weight of her gaze. "Then today they will learn something new. Elisari Prime, the Council's capital, was not built. It was grown, layer upon layer of living alloy shaped into sweeping arcs around a blue giant star. Its halls smelled faintly of minerals and cold water. Its power rested in chambers where history sat like dust. Archmagister Kelveruin moved through those halls with the certainty of someone who believed the galaxy belonged to careful hands, preferably his. His robes shimmered with serity threadwork, patterns shifting to match the emotions he wished others to perceive. Today, restraint, responsibility, sorrow. In the Grand Forum, delegates floated in grav chairs arranged in concentric rings. 12 species, each convinced they were the pillar holding civilization upright. Kelveruin rose, and silence arrived instantly. "The Terrans expand," he began, voice measured. "Not as neighbors. As pressure. As inevitability. They do not ask permission. They take." A delegate with iridescent skin, Kirin, old and wary, tilted her head. "They trade. They sign treaties." Kelveruin let a faint smile touch his mouth. "A blade can be polished. It remains a blade." Murmurs rippled. "We have offered them boundaries," he continued. "They have treated boundaries as suggestions. We have offered oversight. They have built fleets in the dark. This is not curiosity. It is ambition." Another voice, softer, from a species that had once been conquered and later protected by the Council. "And if they refuse?" Kelveruin's eyes narrowed. "Then we do what Guardians do. We remove the threat." He did not mention the real fear, the one that twisted beneath his rhetoric. Terrans adapted too fast. Their engineers treated impossibility like a puzzle, not a wall. If the Council allowed them time, humanity would become the reference point for power. Kelveruin would become irrelevant. He raised a hand. "The ultimatum is mercy." Deep in the chamber, someone whispered, "Or provocation." Kelveruin ignored it. He had already set the galaxy in motion. Back on Terra Prime, the Senate chamber was a storm contained by architecture. Marble, flags, banners of old Earth nations folded into one symbol, an iron star set against black. Senators shouted across the floor, their voices overlapping like weapons fire. "We cannot fight the Council," one cried. "They've crushed empires older than our language." Another slammed a fist down. "And how many times do we bow before they decide we're still inconvenient?" Mira stood at the center dais in her dark uniform, the Terran star on her collar catching the chamber lights. She waited until the noise began to break into frustration. Senator Halden, pale and sweating, pointed at the projection of the ultimatum. "This is extermination, strategos. Extermination. We must negotiate, offer concessions, buy time." Mira met his eyes. "Time for what?" Halden blinked. For them to tighten the collar?" Mira asked, voice quiet enough that the room had to lean in. The stars beyond Terra Prime pulsed with hidden motion. Not even Council-grade sensors could detect what moved between them now. Ghost Fleet, 19 ships with no transponders, no comm signals, their hulls coated in adaptive alloys that mimicked the void, slipped across the border into Council-monitored space. Mira Voss had activated them hours earlier, and now they were in position, scattered across 3 Council-controlled relay systems, Cerex, Hallen, and Vosker Theta. Each ship carried a different payload, AI disruption viruses, power-looping drones, and in one case, a gravity pulse emitter designed to collapse a relay's orbital path into the nearest sun. Not a single missile. Not a single human casualty planned. But the message would be clear. Humanity would not wait to be destroyed. Inside VSS Lucidity, a sleek recon cruiser gliding toward the Vosker Theta relay, Lieutenant Ro Tanaka sat with her jaw clenched. The entire bridge crew was silent. No red alerts. No flashing screens. Just the steady blinking of deep space scans and a live countdown, T-3 minutes to release. Behind her, the ship's commander, Captain Elon Dross, spoke in a whisper only meant for Ro. You sure the AI virus won't loop back into us? She didn't look away from her console. If I did my job right, it won't know we're even here. He nodded, rubbing the edge of his gloves. If you didn't? Then the Council gets a log of every Terran naval algorithm we've got. Dross exhaled slowly. Hell of a coin toss. Tanaka smirked. Welcome to being first. Back on Terra Prime, Mira stood in the command nexus, watching the synchronized movements of Ghost Fleet unfold in holographic detail. A soft hum filled the room, layered with heartbeats, filtered oxygen, and the quiet voices of officers coordinating the silent invasion. Kepler stepped beside her, arms crossed. They won't understand what hit them. They're not supposed to, Mira said. They're supposed to doubt everything after this. He tapped a readout. Our diplomatic channels are still open. For now. You think they'll answer? They won't, Mira said flatly. But everyone else will be listening. When the attacks came, they didn't look like warfare. That was the genius. In Cerex, the primary data tower began transmitting 2-second loops of its own internal clock. Council transports routed by the system were stranded mid-jump, dumped in random sectors with no navigational tether. In Hallen, the gravity stabilizers around the main communications buoy pulsed erratically, flickering long enough for 5 Terran drones to slip past and override the node's control systems. Within minutes, all outbound Council signals from Hallen were redirected to a Terran dead drop archive in Sector 19. And in Vosker Theta, Ro Tanaka's virus blinked into the network, spoofed the AI Guardians with counterfeit authentication, and gently, almost politely, began rewriting system root commands and Terran protocol. By the time the Council realized something was wrong, 8 relay stations across 4 sectors had been compromised or collapsed. No one had fired a single weapon. No Council soldier had seen an enemy. On Elisari Prime, chaos did what centuries of diplomacy never had. It silenced the Grand Forum. Kelvaruin stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by furious voices. Our fleets are blind in Sector 12. 600 vessels are stranded. There were no hostile signals. How did they bypass our networks? He raised a hand, but no one listened. Even the species that had supported him now spoke with unease. The Ilari emissary, a crystalline entity whose voice sounded like ice cracking, turned toward him. This is not a response, she said. This is a prelude. Kelvaruin's voice was low-taut. They struck first. No, the Kirin delegate interjected. They answered. You provoked this. Kelvaruin's robes shifted color, from solemn blue to assertive red. You would have us roll over while Earth plants its flag across the stars? They crippled our relays, someone whispered. Not our cities. Not our people. Yet. He spun on the central platform. They are not interested in balance. They are rewriting the rules while we debate footnotes. The room trembled under the weight of uncertainty. One delegate finally asked the question no one dared before. What if they're not trying to conquer? Silence fell again. Kelvaruin's face darkened. Then we make them wish they had. The broadcast went out 12 hours later. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't even disguised. It was Mira Voss, seated in full Terran dress uniform, dark, minimalist, the iron star on her chest gleaming under a single light. Her voice was calm. The message brief. To the citizens of the Galactic Council, she began. This is not a declaration of war. This is a declaration of memory. She didn't raise her voice. For years you have tried to manage us. To tolerate our existence as long as we stayed within the lines you drew without our consent. You extended ultimatums cloaked in law, dressed in order, enforced by fear. Her gaze didn't flinch. We did not answer with war. We answered with silence. And now, with clarity. The screen behind her showed the collapsed relay systems, the disabled AI cores, the untouched civilian zones. We did not kill your people. We simply reminded you, your systems are not impenetrable. Your control is not absolute. A long pause. We seek peace, But peace does not mean obedience. Then, the last line. The one that echoed across council networks, pirate feeds, fringe relays, and even among the dissenters within the council itself. We are not your anomaly. We are your consequence. Transmission ended. Calveruin watched the recording twice. The first time, with anger. The second time, with something colder. He paced the lower chamber of the council's intelligence branch, speaking to only one other figure, a masked operative known simply as Thorn. One of the council's most dangerous assets. They've prepared for this. Years, maybe decades. She didn't make this up yesterday. Thorn remained silent. I want her compromised. Not killed. Broken. Find her allies. Bribe, blackmail, ruin them. Still no reply. And the Terran networks? Thorn's voice was a hiss beneath the mask. Already infiltrated. We will unspool them, thread by thread. Calveruin nodded. If their minds are their weapons, we make them doubt. Make them distrust. Cut their unity from the inside. Thorn disappeared into shadow. Calveruin turned back to the projection of Myra's face. You think you've changed the game, he thought. But I'm still the one setting the board. In the dark between stars, VSS Lucidity turned for home. Ro Tanaka sat at her console, still watching the silent wreckage of Vosker Theta's relay platform spinning into decay. She didn't speak for a long time. Then, to no one in particular, she muttered. We didn't win anything yet. Dross answered from behind her. No. But they're bleeding control. And that's the first real victory. Tanaka leaned back, eyes narrowing. Let's see how much it hurts when they finally feel it. End of Chapter 2. Let me know when to proceed with Chapter 3, Treason and Fire, or if you want an alternate version with more spy/diplomatic focus or alien perspectives. Smoke hung in the air above Leary. What used to be a thriving mining colony was now ash and static. Mira watched the feed from an orbital drone in silence. Structures collapsed inward, glass domes shattered, fields scorched black. Emergency transports darted across the surface, dragging wounded and unregistered citizens into orbit before the atmosphere thinned too far. Admiral Sato's voice crackled through the command link. We evacuated 70%. Maybe more. But we couldn't hold them, strategos. They came with full spectrum suppression, ion dischargers, thermal spikes, orbital jammers. It was surgical. Myra's jaw locked. Civilian loss? Sato paused. Still counting. But it's bad. The drone zoomed in on the Council fleet withdrawing into upper orbit. No follow-up strike. No occupation. Just a warning. Kepler stepped beside her. They wanted us to see it burn. They wanted us to hesitate. Mira didn't blink. They failed. 2 hours later, Mira addressed the Terran Senate again. The chamber was quiet this time. No shouting. Just a low, pulsing tension like a pressure build before a storm. Leary was not a battle, she said. It was a message. The Council means to break our will before they risk fighting us outright. They think fear will do what fire cannot. She scanned the senators, eyes stopping briefly on Halden, whose expression was unreadable. They think we're weak because we value our lives. Because we evacuate our colonies instead of leaving civilians to die as shields. That is their mistake. There was a beat of silence before applause erupted, but Mira didn't smile. She turned and walked off the dais, boots echoing on the marble floor. Later that night, the Terran Command Core flickered. Just once. A single frame, less than a second, a shadow moving across a server feed that wasn't supposed to be active. No alarms triggered. No systems crashed. But Mira noticed. Rewind that frame, she told the tech officer. And magnify the reflection on the floor. They did. What appeared was a humanoid outline, blurred but not invisible. Myra's stomach turned. That's not one of ours. Kepler leaned in. Council infiltrator? Shapeshifter. Class 3 infiltrator model. Serathi grade. He looked stunned. They got inside Terra Prime? They're already here. Security protocols swept the station in waves. Mira ordered every non-essential civilian off Terra Prime within the hour. Internal surveillance was reset, access logs manually reviewed. 2 discrepancies surfaced. One was in the Senate wing. The other was inside her own War Council chamber. Mira didn't ask Kepler to join her when she entered the War Chamber later that night. She walked in alone, pistol holstered, sidearm charged. The lights dimmed on entry, programmed to respond only to her DNA imprint. She stood in the center of the circular room, silent. "Whoever you are," she said, "you've had time to run." Nothing answered. She drew her sidearm slowly. "But you didn't." A shimmer moved near the far wall. Then another. A voice spoke, clipped and mechanical. "You're observant. It won't save you." The infiltrator dropped its cloaking field, tall, silver-skinned, no mouth, eyes like burning coals. It didn't raise a weapon. It didn't need to. Mira didn't flinch. "You weren't sent to kill me," she said. "You were sent to poison something slower." "Unity," the infiltrator replied. They fought in silence. No alarms. No calls for backup. The infiltrator struck first, faster than any human reflex, but Mira was ready. She didn't aim to kill. She aimed to draw it close, to disable. 2 shots clipped its shoulder. Sparks hissed from the wound. The thing rushed her, metallic limbs blurring. She ducked under the swing, slammed her elbow into its torso, and triggered the pulse blade hidden in her wrist guard. The field bit into its side. It stumbled. "You're better," it rasped. "Faster." "No," Mira growled. "We're just done playing fair." She dropped it with a clean shot through the spine. It spasmed, went still. Back in the command nexus, Kepler reviewed the recovered data from the infiltrator's neural node. "This was no ordinary agent," he said. "This thing had clearance keys to half our fleet archives." Myra's face remained hard. "Someone gave them that access." Kepler hesitated. "You think it's Halden?" "I think someone in the Senate is bleeding us from the inside," she said. "And if we don't cut it out now, we won't need an enemy fleet to lose this war." 2 days later, she summoned Senator Halden to her private chambers. He came alone, dressed in the formal robe of a senior statesman. No aides. No datapad. Just a calm expression and hands folded neatly. Mira didn't offer him a seat. "You opposed the retaliation from the start," she said. "I feared escalation," Halden replied. "You voted against the stealth operations. I questioned the wisdom of acting without warning. You passed encrypted data through a non-government relay 3 weeks ago." Halden's eyes narrowed. "That's an accusation." "No," Mira said. "It's a fact. The Council has our fleet distribution from last month. They didn't get it from dreams." He looked down for a moment. Then back up, and for the first time, Mira saw no fear. Only something colder. "They'll win," he said quietly. "Not today. But soon. And when they do, the people who tried to moderate this disaster might be spared. You think you'll be rewarded? I think I'll survive." Mira stepped forward. "You won't." Halden raised a brow. "You'd kill a senator?" "I don't have to," Mira replied. "You're already recorded admitting treason under security clearance. By tomorrow morning, you'll be on a penal transport to Titan 7. You rot among smugglers and saboteurs. That's your reward." Halden's face didn't crack. He simply nodded once. "You've sealed Earth's fate." "No," she said. "I just gave it a fighting chance." Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Council convened again. Kelvaruin stood before the inner circle, no longer pleading. Now commanding. "They've exposed our agents," he said. "They've rallied fringe species to their cause. Even now, Valari traitors are supplying them with Council-grade star maps." A tall delegate clicked his claws. "The Kirin are debating withdrawal." Kelvaruin's lips curled. "Let them debate. We will act." He activated a display, a massive carrier-class ship, encased in a magnetic shell, surrounded by 4 orbital mass drivers. Project Silence, he announced. Capable of reducing a planetary crust to slag within 3 standard hours. Deployed in secret. Already en route to Terran space. Murmurs turned to silence. You mean to use it? One voice asked, horrified. Kelvaruin nodded. I mean to finish this. Back on Terra Prime, Mira stood alone in the observation deck. Below her, Earth spun in quiet motion. A calm beacon lit up beside her, coded message from a rogue source near Council space. She opened it. The words were brief. They've launched a weapon. Planet killer. ETA 7 days. She closed her eyes. Kepler, she called through the comm. Yes, ma'am. Recall Ghost Fleet. Activate Phoenix Wing. We intercept. We finish this. Yes, Strategos. Mira turned her gaze to the stars beyond. They're coming for Earth. Then her lips tightened. Let them try. The weapon was unlike anything Mira had ever seen. Project Silence was not a ship, it was a verdict. A mobile planetary eradicator, cloaked beneath a gravity-dampening shell and escorted by 12 Council dreadnoughts, each larger than Earth's orbital docks. Its trajectory was precise. No deviation. No warning beacon. Its target, Terra. Mira stood on the bridge of SS Revenant, the flagship of Phoenix Wing, Terra's most advanced intercept fleet. 75 ships, hand-picked and modified for speed, stealth, and last resort operations. ETA to interception, 19 hours, Kepler announced, eyes on the central display. We'll meet them in Dead Space Corridor 7. Mira nodded once. Good. Behind her, Admiral Sato cleared his throat. We're outnumbered 3-1. That was true in the Earth Unification Wars, too. This time they brought gods. Mira turned to him. Then we remind them what devils look like. Dead Space Corridor 7 was a graveyard, ancient debris from forgotten conflicts, swirling metal twisted into silent memorials. It was perfect cover. Terran ships emerged like whispers, engines throttled low, weapons primed, formations spread across a 3-dimensional net. Ghost Fleet had already seeded the zone with signal scramblers and decoys. Myra's trap was laid. On board VSS Revenant, a soft ping indicated enemy contact. Kelvaruin's fleet had arrived. Enemy formation holding tight, Kepler reported. They're guarding the weapon like it's sacred. Myra's gaze locked on the central mass, Project Silence, pulsing with faint green energy. That shell has to go first. We'll never break it from outside, Sato warned. It's designed to tank orbital fire. Then we don't hit it from outside, Mira said. We get in. The plan was brutal. Effective. Terran ships would harass the escort fleet, short-range jumps, hard strikes, then fade into the wreck fields. Meanwhile, a stealth wing would deliver Mira and a small boarding team directly into the weapons control core. Kepler objected. You're the high strategos. You don't lead boarding parties anymore. I do today, Mira said. The battle began without ceremony. Council ships opened fire the moment their systems recalibrated. Plasma trails lit the void, carving through rock and hull alike. 2 Terran corvettes vaporized in the opening exchange. But Phoenix Wing did not scatter. They danced. In and out. Vanish. Strike. Vanish again. The Council fleet staggered, unprepared for the speed and coordination. 3 dreadnoughts lost engines in the first 15 minutes. Still, Project Silence pushed forward, unfazed, unbending. Inside a sleek stealth skiff, Mira suited up. Her team, 2 combat engineers, 1 hacker, 1 exosuit specialist. No speech. No flag. Just focused breath and calibrated gear. Once inside, she said, we find the core and shut it down. No delay. No retreat. The skiff disengaged. They entered through a maintenance port torn open by debris. The interior of the weapon was alive, pulsing energy conduits, humming resonance fields, walls that adjusted as they walked. Feels like it's watching us, one engineer muttered. It is, Mira said. Council Biotech. sentient layers. The machine knew they were there. They pushed forward, encountering no resistance until the last corridor. Then the lights dimmed, and Kelvaruin himself stepped from the shadows, clad in a sealed battle suit, its helm bearing the insignia of the Council's High Enforcer. Mira stopped, hand on her sidearm. "You came personally," she said. "So did you." Kelvaruin looked her over. "You've made this personal from the beginning," he said. "Your father died a criminal. You've turned his last breath into a war cry." He asked for a seat at the table. Mira replied. "You gave him a noose." Kelvaruin's visor retracted, revealing his face, unlined, inhumanly calm. "You're clever. Dangerous. But you're still young." She didn't flinch. "And you're still afraid." He drew a plasma blade, humming with violet light. "So be it." Their duel was brutal. No flourish. No wasted movement. Kelvaruin struck first, blade sweeping down. Mira blocked with her forearm guard, sparks flying. She countered low, kicking his leg, but he absorbed the blow. They traded strikes, metal clanging, heat flashing, blood drawn. He was stronger. But she was faster. He pressed her to the wall, blade at her throat. "You die here, your world dies with you." She stared into his eyes. "Then I don't die." She drove her wrist blade into his side. "Not deep. But enough." He gasped. Stumbled. She fired point blank into his chest plate. Once. Twice. He dropped. Not dead. But broken. The control core loomed ahead, an orb of light suspended in anti-gravity. Her hacker moved quickly, bypassing Council language locks. "I can disable it," he said. "But we can't destroy it. The detonation failsafe is hardwired." "Then disable it." He did. The glow dimmed. The core went still. Across space, the weapon shuddered. Its energy buildup stalled. Its forward movement halted. Terran ships broke through the remaining escorts. The Council fleet began to retreat. Phoenix Wing had survived. Mira stood over Kelvaruin as medics lifted him into stasis restraints. "You could have ruled with reason," she said quietly. "You chose control." His voice was a rasp. "You will never be one of us." "I don't want to be." She turned to the open comm feed. 1,000 frequencies crackled to life. Council members, traitors, fringe colonies, independent systems, all watching. She looked into the camera. "We had the choice to kill him. We didn't. We had the ability to level your cities. We didn't. Terra has no desire to conquer. But we will never be ruled." She paused. "You taught us fear. Now we've taught you consequence." Then she ended the transmission. Weeks later, the Council fractured. 4 species declared neutrality. 2 opened trade with Terra. The rest began slow internal audits, 2 afraid to admit they had been bested, but 2 shaken to retaliate. Kelvaruin faced trial by his own people. Earth was safe, for now. On a quiet morning, Mira walked through the Terran gardens beneath Terra Prime's central dome. The gravity was Earth normal. The air smelled of soil and spring. Children ran between flowerbeds, laughing. She approached a small plaque near the old oak tree. Elias Voss. Ambassador. Dissident. Father. They fear what we might become, so become it anyway. She knelt, placing a small medal beside it, the same iron star she wore through the war. Kepler approached quietly. "They've asked for peace talks. Formal ones this time." Mira stood. "Then we sit. Not as servants. As equals." He smiled faintly. "You did it." "No," she said. "We just started." She turned back to the children. The future didn't look safe. But it looked free.